So welcome to the second session of SWOT and PEST. I don't know, can I say PEST analysis? Sounds like I'm going to talk about pesto.
That's fine with me.
Yeah. So, Victor is going to be unavailable because there's Cardano Rio happening.
Mm-hmm.
And
Right.
so I thought we could still, since we have the time in our calendar, put in some time to work on the thing, on this analysis. And so is it Ryan from the IRA project?
Sure. Yes, I think he has a scheduling conflict.
Yeah, so he has something too. But so today we could just close up on his project for a bit and then maybe start on mine. And if you have anything you want to push into the agenda, please let us know.
I think that's a good starting point. Let's see how far we can go.
So I'm just preparing a window here with Miro because my Miro is a bit wicked on the login part and I can't log in on my standard. I need to open a private browser and then log in. Just going ahead with that. And I think I mentioned this Miro board is sponsored by Littlefish. Just gonna open that one. Do you have an account at Locks, a Miro account?
Yeah.
Okay. I was having a session this morning, the Facilitators Initiative. Have you heard about it?
Yes.
Facilitators Collective. Yeah. And so I learned that there's some features, for example, the voting feature, where you have a board full of Post-its and users can do plus and minuses, and it really does all the number accounting. And that's the kind of feature that's paid for. So I'm curious, do you know any other features that are paid for and that we can use?
I have no good overview. I'm the wrong person to ask. My usage of Mirror is very, very basic in that sense. Okay. But I've utilized voting in the past as well. It's pretty useful.
Okay. Yeah, it's the only point that I can distinguish now that's better to pay for it. But yeah, I'm hoping I learned a lot on that training because the guys seem to be very resourceful in terms of tools and everything. So here we have the board that we started last time. We've decided to just share the link more on DMs and not so much on Discord to preserve, who's been coming to the sessions to work on it. And so it's really just a basic. I'm just going to open a template here. It's not the most basic SWOT. So we have strengths, opportunities, weaknesses, and threats. But in this template that we found in Miro, it has the big one, the main ones on the outside, and then we have these convergences to help us work on strategy. And just to recap, there's a definition there, and we did some warm up here on this demo generic crypto themed version. And now today, on the last session, we also worked a lot on the IRA facilitation project. So what I would suggest is if we can, mature a bit more these quadrants here, and then maybe transition to the ADA Inc. project. By the way, another project that I'm probably going to be working in is the Cardano for non-technicals, which is something that I've been maturing. And on, for example, the facilitators training, I'm going to use the ADA Inc. as well. So we decided to do a synchronous meeting for ADA Inc. So while I'm gathering the community, I'm going to use that one. This is just a side note, but we can talk about it on Monday.
Sounds good.
Okay, so I would challenge you, because the other session, I was the only one sharing screen. I would challenge you to share your screen for a bit, and maybe I can quiet down a bit more, and maybe you can voice your thoughts a bit more for a bit. What do you think?
Thanks for the challenge. Unfortunately, my screen sharing is like on Zoom is working not well with my system. So like notifications that I might get we had it. Quick side note, but yesterday there was a meeting where I shared the screen as well. I got a notification like actually through Zoom, and then I lost the ability to stop sharing. So which is also not great.
That's not good.
Yeah.
Are you on Ubuntu?
So I am on this computer. I'm on Ubuntu, but I actually have the same. It's more of a window manager thing because I use Xmonad, but you would have the same thing like on i3, for example, Sway, all those tiling window managers. Zoom is just not good with that.
But I would still maybe check if you have the latest version, because when I was setting up this machine, my first version of Zoom was crap, and then it improved a lot.
Right.
Okay, so I'm just going to focus on these screens for a bit. I'm going to try not to move the screen so much for anyone watching asynchronously, and throw some points in here.
Yeah, I think it's fine. Don't worry too much about it.
Yeah, it's really just a small team for now, right? Let me know when I can share an idea.
Yeah, I'm still thinking through. So especially the bottom right quadrant, right, where threats meet weaknesses, right? So we have on one side the crypto literacy, right, and then as a threat, and then funding as a weakness, right? And so now we're looking to strategize to minimize the potential dangers lying in sectors where weaknesses meet threats, right? I think the sticky for that would be really education, right? The strategy to educate these stakeholders. I'm not sure if that is sufficient enough. I think education is always like something, especially when it comes to like new innovations. So when it's not like when it's really working on something new and not well understood yet, I think education is pretty much always one component.
Yeah, and then me in the Cardano for Non-Text project, I'm trying to create a culture of people teaching each other. So pay it forward and teach the next cohort. And here, what I was meaning to share as well is on the strength side, this is something like IRAs are very long term. So there's, I think the word for it in terms of client management is churn. When you're gathering clients, but you're losing them at the same time. So that would be a lot of churn. And here we would probably have low churning if people, after they sign up, they tend to just leave it running for a long time. And maybe since we're talking about something that's more like in this type of communities where people gather and meet and everything, maybe you could try to build a community of people that have signed up. Maybe if 10% of the people that sign up become fairly active members of a community, that could contribute to educating other people, and sort of, instead of having to be the organization or the DAO to mentor, holding hands with each new generation of people, if you have a community around it, it would be more organic.
Yeah, that's always an interesting approach, right? Depends on how, in this case, like it really depends on specific cases, right? Definitely. There's not always only good things about community or group gatherings, as we know, right? There's a potential to abuse, and then the company or the organizers become liable for that type of scenario, as we see. Good point. And I think actually, to your point, that's how you scale education, essentially. Because if you do it by yourself, especially as a first mover, it is incredibly expensive in all kinds of resources.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, good point. I think that sticky would actually fit nice between opportunities and strength actually here.
Go for it. Are we calling them clients, subscribers, anything? Clients is okay, right?
I would say so, yeah. Yeah.
Cheers.
Right. And there's two stages, right? So the first stage is the purely informational bit, right? Which Ryan hopefully started working on. And then of course, then the next step, the more complex and interesting one, where you actually, you know, have a much more interesting business model, or an actual business model, I would say. A realistic business model is, you know, the okay, well, you can actually do with crypto IRA, right? To essentially become a competitor to, let's say, iTrust Capital or whoever else might be out there.
One thing that I think I'm going to do is, because I was thinking of putting this one, you see where I'm pointing? So it's the first time that I'm actually pulling this post-it out of, not of the base ones, but of this one. So because we have low churn of people, we can use the people that come to stay, and a part of them will probably be useful to train the next generation, compensating a bit for this threat of lack of literacy by investors.
That makes sense. I wonder if we should also point an error from education to promote a community of clients that can teach training newcomers.
Where's that? I'm just going to follow you for a sec.
Oh, that's one in the top. Sorry, bottom right that I was talking about.
Okay. So now I think, there we go. Now I'm following you, so you can actually present for a bit.
I have nothing new to add. I'll try not to talk too much out of my butt. So let me think.
Yeah. Okay.
And I'll just cut the silence as I did with the previous session. Okay, so I think actually a little bit. Okay, so under opportunities, and this is really related. So I had the sticky not many opportunities to prep for retirement, right? But I think the opportunity is really that there's interest, right? There's or rather demand, I would say. It's a hypothesis, right?
I think what you're saying is nice, but just the word demand there, maybe it's not going to be so self-explanatory for someone asynchronously.
Okay, so demand in a project or interest, like, so talking about, you know, what this project services, right? So the demand for that is, or the services in demand, I guess. So demand for long-term investment / retirement opportunities.
Okay.
Does that work?
Yeah.
Okay, so there's opportunity here, right? And then one of the things that, you know, Ryan and everyone in this space struggles with is time, right? It's like, oh, I don't have enough time to do X, Y, and Z, right? Well, you know, I mean, there's a demand, and yes, funding is a weakness right now, but because there's such big ask or such big interest and demand for this service, time is actually not really an issue, because you can use the funding to now focus your energy and doing that, right? So I think the strength here really is that, you know, there's a funding opportunity, probably external funding, right? Because it takes time to build this. So you need to, it's not something that probably can be bootstrapped that easily. If you do bootstrap it, it's going to take a lot of time, right? Then you would really have to go with this two-stage approach of, okay, let's build a knowledge base first, capitalize on that, right? Courses, like all kinds of information, blah, 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 right? It's a very traditional model, right? And that might work, and you can use the proceeds then to build the next step. But this, I would argue that takes more time. I mean, that's the reason why you take on, well, there are various reasons, but for me, right, if you have a business model that works, ideally it's been proven, and you're bootstrapped, even if you're bootstrapped, if you're profitable, sometimes it's still really a good idea to take on additional investment because you can move faster. You essentially buy time with the capital if you have operations that can scale. So I think, I'm reaching a little bit to fill something into this quadrant, but if we look at strategies to make use of opportunities to minimize weaknesses, the strategy is essentially sell the opportunity to investors, right? And then get funding and obviously use that fund, right?
Yeah.
And since this is not really obvious still, I guess there's a couple of things in between. I'm just gonna
sure.
Errors. And you and Brian obviously can disagree and can remove it.
It's I was just conscious that we passed like 25 minutes of our session, and maybe we could transition to the other one. It felt like it went really fast for some reason.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay, let's do that.
I don't know. I tend to think, even when I do the Cardano for text, I tend to think that I always waste the first 10 minutes with contextualization or something.
Yeah, it went by fast, but I don't think it was necessarily wasted. Okay, so let's move on to
yeah. So Ada Inc. Is just this project of creating a platform where a tattoo shop can deliver the tattoo they are putting on a person's skin, and they can deliver that as well as an NFT, a basic NFT with an image on it. And the purposes are like, it's the type of situation where we are inventing the technology. We're not really inventing so much what people are going to use it for, because it could be sentimental. It could be because of a refresh 20 years down the line, or to leave to your grandchildren. It's up to people. That's good. Cool.
But might not be a real issue, right? Because you mentioned you have someone who has
tattoos. You made your move. I have a move to counter that. So I'm going to put here opportunities is that tattoo is a very strong culture. And I'm going to put in here that I have people with a lot of tattoos on my team.
And potentially you're going to be your own user. I think you have to get
very likely
a tattoo. So
very likely.
Very nice.
I'm going to need to read up on what's a subculture, but I'm using that term for tattoos. And here,
that's fair.
Just going to put these to the side. Okay, would you say that it's a threat or a weakness, that it's hard to build? It may be hard to reach out to a community, to build a community from scratch.
So yes. So I think a different way to think about it is there are communities are already present, and you want to embed yourself into those communities, and you probably want to extend that community. So you're essentially a bridge builder, right? And in the process, you will be creating your own distinct community that is comprised of the people that you reached out to. You embedded yourself into the community. And again, I think like of tattoo artists, find out where tattoo artists and customers of those tattoo artists live. There's many places on the internet, of course. And try to embed yourself in that and understand the various cultures in various different spaces. And it takes time to build community, right? Like a true, authentic community. It's easy to throw up a Discord server or whatever and call it a community. But I think in order to build a community, you have to be a part of the community, of the communities where you already ultimately want to have your own community, if that makes sense. So let's say, I want to, let's say, I built a new community, and let's say I want to have James in my community. Well, I'm going to go to the Gimbal Labs, right? I'm going to go to Gimbal Labs. I'm going to be very involved, try to, get a feeling of the community, get to know people there. And ultimately, if like, it needs to be authentic, right? Yeah. And so I think if you were to say, for example, right, you're really interested in other people, right? If that is one of your strengths, I think, there's at least right now it might be, strategies to make use of opportunities to minimize weaknesses, but it can also be strategies to make use of opportunities through our strengths, right? Okay. Like really wanting to connect with people. I think could be the strength as well.
Okay. Sorry, you're getting background noise from me, aren't you?
That is fine.
There's always dogs around here.
So I'm not sure if that's a threat, but there's a lot of really shitty art, quote unquote art projects, right? It's just like horrendous.
Yeah.
A lot of copycats, or just also theft, or it's like the quality is not good. There's a lot of issues, right? And so I'm wondering about the perception, right? And I think that is also why it's so important to position yourself as coming really from a place of wanting to understand and wanting to do something cool. And I think in like what's the purpose of this, right? What's your reasoning behind doing things? If you communicate that well, I think that's important as well, right? So the people behind the project, for people to get to know you, because especially if it's something like tattoos, right? Like it's more or less permanent, right?
Yeah.
So I think personality or values and how you're doing things really plays an important role. So you can mitigate those shitty art projects there, because you just don't do it.
And not just that, but there's always like spam. Even if we get to a certain critical mass of people, of content and user exposure, world exposure, we're going to get spam and all that type of thing.
Right.
Not to mention, like I said, we're creating an infrastructure, and people are going to get creative in the ways they use it. So, yeah.
right? Use it, abuse
Imagine
it.
a tattoo shop that starts minting like a huge number of tattoos just to spam our marketplace or something. So in that regard,
that's why you have fees, right? On blockchain, not to spam the network.
On the threads part, I'm going to put in authoring rights for the art. And thinking of like, because I'm probably going to be, as I know myself, becoming a bit obsessed on uncovering all the grounds and maturing this thing, I'm probably going to be maybe trying to grade them a bit and make them more bigger or smaller in regards to each other to keep a good perspective of how the bigger points that we need to cover.
Yep.
This morning we were working with opacity, but I realized there's no opacity setting for this object. It's just this. There's a lot to learn about Miro. So, but just to go straight from the thread of the authoring rights, one of our weaknesses is as well that we don't have an initial structure. So I need to work on that. I'm thinking about law and accounting and
all the fun stuff.
Yeah, marketing, all the work that needs to be put together to make things viable. But I was thinking here about the authoring rights.
I mean, yeah, if you were to have someone, I mean, we tried to initially, start our company with a chief legal officer. So unfortunately, it did not work out, right? But that would be great having someone like that, right? Because then you can actually turn this into a strength. But
so your solution there would be to get someone from legal in the community?
That'd be great, right? To have that unicorn, but at the same time, I'd advise to put the burden essentially on a single person, right? You know what I mean? Like what would happen if that person were to leave, die, go into another company, sold all your secrets, or run away with it, and it's complicated, right? Also understanding that most relationships are temporary in nature anyway. But I think for different stages of a project, you might want to have different people, and if there is someone, if legal is really important, right, then there's also things that so the problem here is essentially the question about rights, and there's also some organizational questions, right, where like a legal person or a group of legal experts can assist. But then now you have an asset, the asset being the legal expert or experts, right? So now you can think about, okay, what else can I do? Right, and you can think about like patents, for example, trademarks, all of that stuff, right? Which I personally am not a fan of. Like, I'd open source anything if I could, but you now have an asset, and now the question is like, okay, what else can you do with that, right?
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Okay. Matthias, I'm going to ask you if you can see, because when I'm not sharing the screen, I cannot see the countdown clock. It's something that
it's 4 minutes and 17 seconds.
Now I can, because I stopped sharing, but I'm going to go back to share and I'll leave it up to you to try to warn us when we go down. Okay.
All right. I'll try to give you a 1 minute warning. Yeah. Or we just end abruptly.
Oh yeah, or we could just say our goodbyes. Yeah. What time is it for you?
10:38 a.m.
Oh my
Pacific.
God. Jeez. For me, it's like almost 7 p.m.
I had my first meeting late today at 7:30 a.m. So
okay.
Monday will be interesting. I have Cardano Builders at 7 a.m. and I think my last meeting at 9:30 p.m. with someone in Japan. So yeah, it's going to be a long day. The joy of I wouldn't even call it globalization because it became to mean a very different thing. But of working with different time zones.
I am having a bit of that, but not as much, obviously. The second half of my day is usually quite full.
I mean, that's okay. This is also something that's not present on this board, right? Like what opportunities can turn into weaknesses. Because that's the thing, right? If you have so many opportunities, right? Opportunity, like the calculation of opportunity cost becomes so complicated, right? What is the right thing to do? But obviously that's not very helpful in, pursuing the one thing that you think will make a difference.
So I'll put in as a thread, global coordination is hard.
Is it an external threat or is it an internal weakness though?
Not sure. I think it's more of a threat because I was seeing it more like threats haven't come through, haven't realized themselves, and weaknesses are already something that we have. So I was seeing this more as possible and this more as acquired or intrinsic to us.
Got it.
Yeah. So here, to work on this one with our strengths, I'm gonna use this one. It's a bit like playing a game. It's gamification of SWOT. So I'm gonna try to use my abilities to coordinate things against the global management and try to delegate and structure work and etc.
Sounds good. And here's a 42-second warning.
Okay.
Okay. So I think we made good progress.
Yeah.
Progress.
Me too.
Becoming more familiar with that. So let's do another one next week.
Looking forward for next week. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Cool. Thanks a lot.
Have a good weekend and good luck with the rest of your day. Cheers. Speak soon.
All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Ciao.